Have you ever wondered what it truly means to live a fulfilling life as you get older? Is it about staying busy, helping others, or simply surviving? What if the key to happiness and peace in your later years lies in something far more powerful? Something many of us overlook until it's too late. In today's video, we're going to explore the inspiring journey of Emiko, a woman who not only embraced aging but transformed it into a meaningful and joyful experience. She learned that true happiness isn't about staying close to your family or sacrificing your independence. It's about creating your own life, filled with passion, purpose, and a sense of freedom. By watching this video, you'll discover the secret to thriving in your later years. How to find a balance between independence and connection, the importance of pursuing your passions, and the incredible power of self-care and self-love. Plus, we'll dive into how Emiko turned her small, everyday choices into life lessons that can inspire us all. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Emiko's words resonate deeply. I finally realized that what I truly need to live a happy old age is not my children, nor money, but these 3 things. This simple yet profound realization came after a lifetime of giving, sacrificing, and living for others. What are these 3 treasures that transformed her life so completely? How did she uncover them through the highs and lows, the trials and tribulations, that life had so generously offered her? Today, I want to share with you the incredibly inspiring story of a woman, of a mother, who spent decades living for everyone else, only to find her version of happiness when she least expected it. Emiko's journey to understanding what truly matters in the twilight years of her life is nothing short of beautiful. She dedicated her youth and her love to her children, her family, and the people around her, pouring all her energy into their happiness. Yet, in the process, she lost sight of herself. She became a shadow of her own life, constantly giving but never receiving the love and joy that comes from within. How could she possibly discover the light she so desperately needed, the peace that had eluded her for so long? The answer, I believe, lies in the realization that parents, particularly mothers like Emiko, often pour so much of themselves into their children's lives that they forget to live for themselves. They forget that the greatest gift they can offer their loved ones is not constant sacrifice, but the courage to love themselves first, to find their joy, and to walk their path. It took Emiko years to reach this epiphany. But once she did, once she embraced the idea that happiness begins within, she felt a profound shift. One that not only changed how she viewed herself, but how she viewed the process of growing older. Through her journey, Emiko discovered 3 treasures, 3 simple, yet transformative elements that would become the foundation for her happiness in later life. These treasures were not material things, nor were they things that anyone could buy. They were internal, deeply personal, and rooted in self-love, self-care, and the freedom to live authentically. Emiko learned that the greatest joy in life comes not from walking the path that society or others lay out for us, but from walking the path that feels true to our hearts and feet. It is a path paved with the lessons of our own experiences, the wisdom gained through time, and the ability to make choices that nourish our souls. The most profound part of Emiko's revelation was that preparing for old age isn't about accumulating wealth or material possessions. It's about preparing ourselves, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, for the next chapter of life. It's about shedding the belief that we must always put others first, that our happiness depends on our children, or that success is measured by what we give away. True fulfillment comes when we realize that we are worthy of joy and peace, just as we are, without needing to prove our worth to anyone. Emiko's words, simple as they may seem, hold a powerful truth. The path to happiness in old age is not about what we have, but about who we have become and how we choose to love ourselves. As I reflect on her story, I cannot help but feel a deep sense of admiration and empathy for Emiko. She reminds us that life is not a race to the finish line, but a journey of self-discovery and growth. She invites us to let go of the belief that we must constantly sacrifice our own well-being for the sake of others. Instead, she urges us to honor ourselves, to embrace the quiet, reflective moments that often come with age, and to find peace in our own company. In a world that often values busyness over stillness, Emiko's story is a beautiful testament to the power of finding contentment within. Let us now listen to Emiko's story, as told by her, a woman who at 68 years old, closed the small restaurant she had run for 34 years in Asakusa, Tokyo. That was the day she truly understood the priceless lesson she had been waiting for her entire life. And what a lesson it is. Mom, from now on, take it easy and live with us. We'll take care of you, Haruka, her eldest daughter, said with a soft, caring smile. She had always been the more protective one, and this was no exception. Yes, Mom, come live with me. The kids want to spend time with their grandmother, added Yuki, her youngest daughter, who had always been full of energy and enthusiasm. Both of them spoke with the same concern, their voices full of love and care. They knew that their mother, Emiko, had worked so hard all her life, and now, in her later years, it was time for her to enjoy some peace and support. They couldn't bear the thought of her being alone or struggling without them. But Emiko only smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the calm wisdom of a life lived with quiet dignity. There was something profoundly serene in her expression, as if she had lived through too much to be swayed by others' concerns. 34 years ago, when her beloved husband had tragically passed away in an accident, Emiko found herself alone with two young daughters to raise. It was the hardest, most painful time of her life, and yet she never allowed herself to be a burden on anyone. Not her family, not even her friends. She dug deep and found strength she didn't know she had. Rather than turning to others for help, she opened a modest roadside restaurant, where she prepared simple yet nourishing meals, rice, miso soup, and the kind of food that brought warmth to the soul. She worked day in and day out, her hands calloused and her back sore, but her heart was always focused on her daughters. Every penny she earned went toward their education, their future, and the hope of giving them a better life. She saved, scrimped, and sacrificed so they could have the best possible start in life. And when the time came for their weddings, she poured everything she had into making those days special for them. Now, after decades of hard work, she had closed the restaurant, worn down by age and the inevitable passage of time. But Emiko remained steadfast, unshaken by the changes around her. Mom, it's okay. Don't worry. I can take care of my own life, she said, her voice calm and reassuring, as though there was nothing to worry about. Haruka and Yuki couldn't understand why their mother refused their help. They had seen her struggle for so long, raising them on her own, doing everything with little more than grit and grace. They were convinced she had earned her rest, that she deserved to be pampered and cared for by the family she had so selflessly devoted herself to. But Emiko, with her gentle yet resolute spirit, had a different view. She paused, choosing her words carefully, as though speaking from a wellspring of deep personal truth. Over these 34 years, I've learned one thing, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. People are happiest and strongest when they rely on themselves. You too have grown up and started your own families. Now, I need to find my peace, without being a burden on anyone. There was a quiet wisdom in her words, a recognition that peace cannot be found in dependence, but in independence, in self-sufficiency. Haruka and Yuki were initially puzzled, unable to fully grasp the depth of their mother's quiet strength. But then, weeks later, they received a photo of Emiko, smiling brightly, taken during a visit to Nagano. The smile on her face, so free and at peace, told them everything they needed to know. At that moment, they understood. Emiko had found her way, her happiness, by embracing solitude, standing on her own 2 feet, and following her own heart. Emiko had taught them something invaluable, not just about strength, but about self-love and the pursuit of peace. Happiness, she had once said, is not about living the way others want you to. It's about loving yourself and following your heart. Those words stayed with them, echoing in their minds long after the photo had been put away. In her quiet wisdom, Emiko had shown her daughters that true fulfillment comes from within, and that there is profound beauty in being content with yourself, in finding peace on your terms. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It wasn't just a lesson about aging or about independence. It was a lesson about life itself. In a world where the rush to please others often drowns out the voice of our hearts, Emiko Hast found the courage to listen to her own needs, honor her journey, and embrace her own space. It was a decision that spoke volumes about the depth of her character, about the unshakable sense of self that only time, experience, and an unwavering belief in one's worth could bring. Emiko's decision was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, an enduring reminder that sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the freedom to choose our path, regardless of others' expectations. People often say that old age requires 3 things: health, relationships, and hobbies. As people often say, old age requires 3 things to truly thrive: health, relationships, and hobbies. These are the pillars upon which we can build a life of fulfillment, peace, and dignity as we age. But for each person, these things might take on a different meaning, a deeper significance, especially as we face the unique challenges and joys that come with the later years of life. The first, and perhaps most essential, is health. Emiko's story is one of resilience and quiet determination. After 34 years of running a bustling restaurant, the toll on her body was immense. The long hours on her feet, the constant bending, lifting, and running around caused her back and shoulders to ache relentlessly. Eventually, this pain became unbearable, and she was diagnosed with a herniated disc. Despite the agony, Emiko did what many of us do: she soldiered on. There was no room for weakness, and no time for self-care when there was work to be done. But after retiring, something within her shifted. She realized that her body, worn out from decades of hard work, deserved better. Every morning, she would whisper to herself, "Today, I'm going for a walk," and slowly, she began to reclaim her health. At first, it was a struggle. She could barely manage a short walk around the neighborhood park, her back throbbing with each step. But she refused to give in. Her determination was stronger than the pain. Day by day, her walks grew longer. What started as a painful effort turned into a quiet victory, 1 lap at a time. 2 months later, Emiko noticed something remarkable. Her back pain had eased, her body felt lighter, and she felt a shift in her spirit. It was as though, with each step, she was rediscovering a part of herself that had been buried under years of exhaustion and neglect. Then, a serendipitous encounter changed everything. One day, while resting on a bench, an elderly woman approached her with an invitation. "I see you walk every day. Would you like to join our yoga club? It's very gentle, and anyone can participate." The idea of yoga intrigued Emiko, so she agreed. That decision marked the beginning of another transformation. Through yoga, she began to experience a deeper connection to her body, finding strength in stretches she never thought possible. During one of the lessons, she shared with her classmates, "Until now, I thought my health was something my children would take care of. But now I realize that my health is my asset. I shouldn't make others bear the cost of my medical treatment and care. I must take care of myself. That is true freedom." This realization was profound, a moment of clarity. Emiko understood that her well-being was not a burden to others, but a responsibility she had to carry for herself. And with that came a deep sense of liberation, a quiet empowerment that came from within. The second vital element is relationships. Emiko learned that, as we grow older, our greatest need is not just for companionship, but for meaningful connections. One day, as she walked through her neighborhood, she saw a sign asking for volunteers to help plant flowers in the local park. Although she had no experience with gardening, something in her stirred. It felt like an invitation to step outside of her comfort zone, to try something new and meet new people. She decided to join, knowing this could be an opportunity for growth, even in her later years. On her first day, she was assigned the humble task of pulling weeds and preparing the soil for new flower beds. As she struggled with the shovel, an 8-year-old boy approached her, looking shy and uncertain. "Grandma, am I doing this right?" he asked. Emiko smiled and gently showed him how to hold the shovel properly, teaching him the art of digging without damaging the roots. In that small, tender moment, a connection was made, a bond between generations, a shared task that was more than just gardening. It was a reminder of the joy of giving, the joy of teaching. As the weeks passed, Emiko became an integral part of the volunteer group. She forged new friendships with people of all ages, from the boy she had helped to the other volunteers, some much younger, some older. She found herself enjoying the camaraderie, the simple pleasure of working together for a shared cause. One day, while watering the flowers, an older woman asked her, "Do you also grow flowers at home?" Emiko smiled warmly and replied, "Actually, I've never grown anything before. But thanks to these flowers, I feel like I've started a new life." In those words was the realization that it's never too late to bloom. Through her work in the garden, Emiko discovered a new sense of purpose, and through her relationships with others, she found an antidote to loneliness. She shared this wisdom at a volunteer meeting. The greatest fear in old age is not loneliness, but the feeling that you have no value. By opening your heart and trying new things, you can find valuable relationships and eliminate loneliness. And finally, hobbies are important. Things that bring us joy, spark our curiosity, and connect us to a sense of purpose. Emiko's daughters were astonished when, at the age of 68, she decided to take piano lessons. "Mom, are you going to take piano lessons?" they asked, their surprise evident. After all, no one had ever imagined their mother, now in the later stages of life, would choose to start something so ambitious. But Emiko had long harbored a quiet dream, a dream of learning the piano. Life, with its demands and sacrifices, had never allowed her to pursue it. But now, in her retirement, with more time to herself, she was determined to fulfill that long-held desire. At first, it was difficult. Her fingers stumbled on the keys, and the music felt foreign to her. But Emiko's determination was unwavering. She took one lesson at a time, feeling the joy and satisfaction of progress, however small. What had once been a distant dream was now something she could touch and feel. With every note she played, she rediscovered a sense of herself that had been put on hold for so many years. Emiko's story is a beautiful testament to the idea that it's never too late to take control of your health, forge meaningful relationships, and pursue your passions. Old age doesn't have to mean the end of growth. It can be a time of rediscovery, a time of finding new purposes and new joys. Emiko's journey reminds us that with courage, resilience, and a little bit of faith in ourselves, we can continue to evolve and live fulfilling lives, no matter how old we are. Even something as simple as pressing the piano keys became a battle for her. Each touch felt foreign, as though her fingers no longer obeyed the way they did in her youth. But despite the discomfort, she didn't give up. She spent countless hours every single day, patiently and persistently practicing, repeating the most basic exercises over and over. The struggle was real, but with every attempt, her fingers slowly regained their agility. Gradually, the sound she produced began to change. What once was awkward, clumsy notes slowly transformed into something more beautiful, more meaningful. The music she played carried emotion, not just melody. She would often tell me, with a quiet yet unwavering conviction, "Time is not something to just fill up, it's something to create." Every single day, even with the simplest of notes, is an opportunity to transform life into a piece of music. The real danger is not to start something new as you get older. It's far scarier to let time pass without daring to grow. It was as if her very soul was waking up to the possibilities she hadn't yet tapped into. 6 months later, Emiko's life was unrecognizably different. She wasn't just playing songs she had loved since childhood. She was truly feeling them, breathing life into every note, savoring the joy that only music could give her. Her fingers, now more nimble, danced across the keys with a newfound grace. And in those moments, when she sat at the piano, there was a sense of renewal that filled her. It was as if she had discovered magic, something pure and beautiful, like a young girl finding a treasure for the first time. One day, her eldest daughter, looking at her with a mixture of concern and love, asked, "Mom, do you love living alone?" The question hung in the air, laden with a daughter's worry, as though she feared her mother might be lonely. But Emiko looked at her calmly, affection radiating from her expression, and said, "I love you deeply, which is why I chose to keep some distance. Staying with you all the time might not be love. It could become self-satisfaction on my part. What I want most is for you to live freely, without feeling bound by my presence. Let me be independent. That is how I love you." Her daughters were left silent, their hearts touched in ways words couldn't reach. They didn't fully understand at first, but as time passed, they began to see that their mother had made the wisest choice. True love, they came to realize, wasn't about being physically close all the time. It was about giving each other space, allowing for individual growth, and respecting one another's independence. Months later, the youngest daughter spoke to her sister with a certain clarity that had come with time. "If Mom had lived with us, I don't think she would be as happy as she is now." And in that moment, both sisters knew with certainty what their mother had already realized long ago. She had found her happiness, not in the comfort of others, but in the freedom to live her life the way she truly wanted. And though they were no longer dependent on one another in the same way, they still maintained a deep, meaningful connection. One that was based not on obligation, but on mutual respect for lives and choices. Emiko's daily life was a beautiful balance of activity and peace. She woke up every morning with a sense of purpose, starting her day with yoga. It wasn't just about stretching her body. It was a quiet, sacred time for her to center herself, to feel grateful for the gift of another day. The mornings were her own, a space where she could breathe deeply, reflect, and set the tone for the rest of her day. After yoga, she devoted her afternoons to volunteering at a local meal service. It was more than just helping others. It was a way for Emiko to connect, to make her small corner of the world a little brighter. The simple act of sharing a meal with someone who had nothing but hope in their eyes filled her heart in a way nothing else could. In the evenings, after a fulfilling day of giving, Emiko would sit at her piano. The soft sound of the keys was her evening ritual, a moment of calm and introspection. Music, for her, was both an escape and a reflection of the soul. She had no grand ambitions of becoming a concert pianist. Instead, it was her form of self-expression, a way to nurture her spirit. On weekends, the world seemed to slow down as her children and grandchildren gathered in her home. There was no rush, no tension, only the shared warmth of being together. They ate, laughed, and conversed, each one respecting the other's personal space, never crowding one another, always allowing room for individuality. In those moments, Emiko felt an overwhelming sense of peace. It wasn't the quantity of time, but the quality that mattered most. They didn't need to be together every day. It was the understanding that when they were together, they were truly present. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Emiko believed that in old age, the things that matter most are not material wealth or fleeting pleasures. Instead, it was a healthy body, the strength of genuine relationships, and a passion for life's simple joys, like the piano, the act of giving, and the warmth of family, that truly defined a fulfilling life. To her, getting older was not something to fear. Age was not an enemy but a privilege, one that should be embraced with grace and wisdom. What terrified her, however, was the thought of losing the courage to care for herself, to still pursue the things that made her feel alive, and to seek her own happiness. She knew too well that one could grow old, but still lose the essence of what makes life worth living. One afternoon, Emiko's eldest daughter arrived looking troubled, her face a little more serious than usual. "Mom, one of my friend's mothers needs a major surgery. She has no savings, And now her children are bearing all the hospital costs. Emiko didn't flinch. She simply walked over to a small wooden drawer, where she kept the savings book she had guarded for the past 34 years. This was no ordinary book. It was the tangible proof of the quiet years she had spent running a diner. Years of hard work, sacrifice, and discipline. Without a word, she handed it to her daughter. "I will never be a burden on you," she said softly, her voice steady but full of love. "This is my first treasure." Emiko's first treasure was not just money. It was her independence, her ability to take care of herself, to not depend on others, and to never burden her family with worries she could avoid. But that wasn't all. Emiko had always been meticulous about her health and future. She paid for health insurance every month and had also signed up for special senior insurance, preparing for any unforeseen circumstances with a calm, responsible mind. Her second treasure, Emiko believed, was the relationships she had carefully nurtured over the years. Through her volunteer work, she had made lasting friendships that filled her life with meaning. One of her greatest joys was the hiking group she had formed. Every month, she would set out with her friends, their feet carrying them along trails and through woods, while their laughter and conversation echoed in the fresh air. These outings weren't just about exercise. They were about camaraderie, shared memories, and the kind of connection that only deepens with time. As Emiko's life grew richer with each passing day, she found herself busier than ever. There were moments when her daughters would joke about her packed schedule. "Mom is so busy these days. She hardly answers when I call," her youngest daughter, Yuki, would complain with a laugh. Yet, the two daughters could only smile and share knowing looks. They understood what had truly happened. Emiko had found the happiness that came from living a life filled with purpose. Her days were no longer dominated by worry, fear, or the struggle to find meaning. She had created a life that was both fulfilling and self-sustaining, a life where she didn't need anyone else to define her happiness. In the end, Emiko knew that the most precious inheritance a parent could leave their children was not material wealth, but peace of mind. It was the gift of knowing that you can live your life fully, without burdening anyone else. It was the wisdom to build a life of purpose, to fill it with relationships that matter, and to always make room for the things that make your heart sing. The legacy she left was not in money or possessions, but in the quiet strength of her independence, the kindness of her relationships, and the joy she found in every single day. One day, Emiko carefully planned a trip to Hokkaido with her closest friends from the piano club, and the excitement she felt was unlike anything she had experienced in years. It was the first time in ages that she had ventured out without her children, and the experience filled her heart with a joy that exceeded all her expectations. For the first time in a long while, she felt free. Free from the daily routines of motherhood, free from the weight of responsibilities. As they sipped tea together one afternoon, basking in the warmth of friendship, Emiko said, her voice full of quiet wisdom, "As we age, friends become invaluable. They are the anchors in a world that shifts so quickly. Children, bless them, will always see us from their own perspective, through the lens of their needs and their expectations. But friends, they see us as we truly are. They are the mirrors that reflect not only our flaws but our growth. They offer us the space to be real, to improve without fear of judgment. Friends help us evolve, gently, over time. Time itself, time doesn't just pass us by. No, it accumulates, layer by layer. The moments we fill it with, the choices we make, that's what gives time its meaning and weight. But not long after that heartwarming trip, Emiko's world was shaken by devastating news. One cold winter afternoon, following a long session of piano practice, she received a phone call that would forever haunt her. Her dear friend Aiko, the one who had stood by her side for 34 years at the diner, had passed away alone. Aiko had lived a solitary life after her children married and left home, and it wasn't until a week later that anyone discovered her body. The news hit Emiko like a thunderclap, and for days, she couldn't shake the image of Aiko, so full of life, so dedicated to her children, yet ending her days alone. The sadness and fear that crept into Emiko's heart were overwhelming. As she lay awake that night, unable to sleep, her mind kept circling back to that haunting thought. Is this the fate that awaits me? Am I destined to be forgotten, to die alone, just like Aiko? The weight of that fear stirred something deep within Emiko. It wasn't just sadness she felt, it was a sense of urgency, a realization that, in living solely for her children, she had neglected herself. To avoid ending up like Aiko, she thought, her heart aching with the truth, I need to live for me, too. I must carve out a space in this world that is just for me. I cannot lose myself in the roles of mother and caretaker. There must be something more. This realization became a turning point for her, one that would shape the way she moved forward in life. From that moment on, Emiko threw herself even more passionately into her small piano band. What had started as a hobby now became her lifeline, a place where she could connect with friends who shared her love for music and life. It wasn't just about playing the piano anymore. It was about something deeper, something far more meaningful. It was a place of mutual empathy, of sharing and understanding. When they performed at nursing homes, Emiko was not just playing the piano. She was offering something far more precious, the gift of connection, of joy, of hope. Seeing the smiles on the faces of the elderly residents, hearing the laughter and the gratitude, Emiko began to understand the true value of giving and receiving. It was no longer about her. She had something to offer, and that was worth everything. The band began to perform regularly at various venues, spreading happiness far beyond the nursing homes. They brought their music to the heart of the city, touching people of all ages with their performances. Emiko had found her purpose, a purpose that transcended age, a purpose that filled her heart with pride. People are always surprised when they hear about us, Emiko said with a proud smile, her eyes sparkling with a newfound sense of purpose. But we know it's true. Age is just a number. If you have passion, if you have something to give, you can do anything. It's never too late to make a difference. It's never too late to live fully. And with that, Emiko's heart swelled with gratitude, knowing that her friends, her music, and the quiet strength she had nurtured within herself were the things that would carry her through the rest of her life. She had learned at last that living fully wasn't about what she gave to others. It was about what she gave to herself. And with every note she played, with every smile she shared, she was creating a life worth living. Emiko had always believed that happiness was found in caring for others. She dedicated so much of her life to nurturing those around her, her family, her friends, even strangers who crossed her path. But as she grew older and more reflective, Emiko realized something profound and deeply personal. True happiness doesn't solely come from taking care of others. It also comes from living life with passion, from truly embracing every precious moment, and from cultivating an inner sense of fulfillment that radiates outward. It's about finding joy within yourself and then sharing that light with the world. She began to see that to be truly happy, one must nurture their own spirit first. For how can you give from an empty cup? It was one afternoon, as the sky shifted from warm daylight to the cool shadows of evening, that Emiko's youngest daughter, Yuki, arrived at her doorstep, her face drenched in tears. Yuki collapsed onto the sofa, her body trembling with emotion. Her voice broke as she spoke, the years of silent suffering finally spilling over. "Mom, I want to get a divorce. I can't take it anymore," she sobbed. The weight of Yuki's pain was palpable, and Emiko's heart ached for her daughter. It was a pain that no mother ever wants to see in the eyes of their child, a struggle so deep, so raw, that words felt almost useless in the face of it. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But Emiko didn't rush to offer empty words of comfort, nor did she try to fix everything at that moment. She had learned long ago that sometimes silence is the most powerful gift you can give. She sat beside Yuki, wrapping her arms around her not to shield her from her pain, but to be there, fully present. There was no need for grand gestures, just quiet understanding, the kind that only time and experience can bring. She let Yuki cry, letting her express all the pent-up emotions she had carried for far too long, the emotions that had threatened to break her. When the tears finally subsided, Emiko placed her hand on Yuki's trembling one, her touch gentle but firm, a symbol of unwavering support. She met her daughter's gaze, her eyes filled with warmth and love that spoke louder than any words could. And then she spoke, her voice steady, but her heart full with the wisdom of a life lived through both struggles and triumphs. "Yuki," Emiko began, her voice soft but resolute, "I don't know if I can comfort you with just words. But look at me. I lost your father when I was young, and I had to raise you and your sister all alone. Those years were so difficult, and so filled with doubt and fear, but I never gave up. There were times I thought I couldn't go on, times I felt so small in the face of it all. But I kept going, one step at a time. And now, here I am, living a life that, despite its challenges, is the happiest I've ever known." She paused, her hands still resting on Yuki's, offering all the strength she had built over a lifetime of resilience. "This life is yours to shape, Yuki. You have the power to make it whatever you want. If you're tired, it's okay to rest. But never give up. I know you have the strength to overcome everything that stands in your way." In that moment, Emiko didn't just offer her daughter advice. She offered her a living testament to the power of perseverance, the beauty of self-reliance, and the hope that no matter how dark the storm is, there is always a way through it. Her words, simple yet profound, lit a tiny flicker of hope in Yuki's heart, a light that had long been buried beneath layers of fear and doubt. From that day forward, Yuki decided to make a change. She sought counseling, a safe space to confront her struggles. She found a new job, a way to rebuild her confidence and independence. Emiko knew that sometimes the greatest gift a parent could give wasn't advice, but a living example. By living her life with grace, strength, and unwavering love, Emiko had shown her daughter how to stand firm in the face of adversity, how to create joy in her own heart, and how to live a life that was meaningful, regardless of the challenges it brought. Sometimes, the most powerful lesson is not in the words you speak, but in the way you live, because actions speak louder than anything else. Emiko had shown her daughter that, no matter what life throws at you, there is always the possibility of transformation, always the hope of starting again. As we wrap up today's story, I want to ask you, what have you learned from Emiko's journey and the lessons she shared with her daughter? Life isn't always easy, but it's the strength, resilience, and passion we bring to each day that makes all the difference. Whether it's about the power of self-care, the importance of being present for the ones we love, or how to embrace our own happiness and growth, there's so much we can take from Emiko's example. I'd love to hear from you. What is one thing you've learned today that you plan to bring into your own life? Is there something from this story that inspired you to make a change or view your own challenges differently? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to read what you have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more stories and inspiration on living your best life at any age. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.